Good morning and welcome to Office Hours, the show where we answer your technical media production questions every single week. We got a great panel today. Dave, let's get started.
Our first question comes from Chuck Hodges in Ptolemy, California. How do these new Zoom tools benefit the largest Zoom customer base who just needs good, consistent performance for meetings and webinars, which would be over about 90% or more of the users, including many in enterprise and education? Is this PC compatible?
Yeah, so this is just in reference to the announcement that we had yesterday. So for those that missed it, we had Andy Carluccio come in from Zoom and talk about it was a bit of a power hour. It was a very tense hour with a lot of information. But one of the features that he announced was the enhanced media support. So basically, this is going to be a paid add-on, which would allow you to get 60 frame rates per second, which right now Zoom only supports 30. So it's a doubling of frame rate for those that want that faster frame rate, in addition to higher bit rates as well. So they're going to be increasing the available bit rates as well. So we're looking at overall better image quality, color quality from Zoom. To your question, Chuck, how it affects the largest user base, I don't think it would. Because I think for the average person, if that's what we're talking about, who just needs to jump into a meeting, I don't think they're probably going to be any the wiser. I think this is really geared towards production professionals, people that are using specialized tools, not just the standard vanilla Zoom workplace client, but I think specialized tools that tap into the Zoom APIs. That allow us to do like what we're doing here for this show, for example, production tools that pull in ISO video feeds. If we wanted to switch our entire pipeline to 60 FPS, we would use those production tools in order to do that. And those are features, the general increased bit rate is great, I think. And the nice thing is that you can just have one user account that pays for it. Anybody that joins that meeting automatically would get upgraded, assuming that they come into that meeting with a camera that actually support it. So everybody benefits. And, who doesn't want better image quality? Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, as to whether it is PC compatible, I was going to try and ask him that question, but I didn't, he was going so fast. I didn't want to interrupt him. That a lot of that stuff that Liminal writes is all Mac specific, as is ZoomISO. So I'm not sure if that software, he didn't say whether that was cross-platform or not, that software. Most of the other Zoom software that didn't come out of Liminal is cross-platform, but some is specific to a certain platform like the Macintosh. So I don't know. You could ping old Andy on Discord and ask him that question.
Yeah, and I know on the Windows side of things, there's the Zoom AV. I can't remember the exact name. There is like an equivalent of Zoom ISO that is for Windows computer. I think you can use it on a Mac too. So they do have a lot of different solutions there, but specific to the higher bit rate and the frame rate stuff, that is not operating system specific. That's agnostic. That's just you pay for it if you want the feature. If you want higher quality in your meetings, that's something that you can pay for. And of course, like Courtney said, I mean, there are certain tools like Zoom ISO, for example, is a Mac OS app, but there are solutions for Windows as well that you can certainly look into. Anyways, more to come with that. We'll see how that unfolds. I know that stuff is not out yet. I believe they are aiming for late March for that, so we'll report back. I'm anxious to try that as well for my own show because I want to move my own stuff to 60 as well. Next question.
This one's from the QR code. It's from Mariella Zusamira in Wubalo, Texas. Please explain debayering and more about why it doesn't work on the browsers and computers. Reading about it has already made me a headache.
All right, Courtney, what's debayering?
Well, debayering is bear, B-E-A-B-E-A-B, I think it's B-E-A-Y-E-R, is the pattern of the filter that is in a single chip DSLR camera or like still cameras. Use what's called a Bayer filter. And it's an arrangement of red, green, and blue filters that go over that sensor and give you the extract the color out of it. And because the eyeball is more sensitive to green, they have more green sensors, double the number of green filters than red or blue filters. So the way that the filters arrange, I wish I could bring up a picture of it, but it was too late getting to this question. The way that it happens is software, usually inside whatever you have that is bringing an image out of the camera, and most of the time it's done inside the camera, changes that, it separates those colors by debayering it. In other words, it uses an algorithm that changes the double green pixels into an even number of values, like 256, so that the debayering filter automatically removes that pattern from the incoming image and gives you red, green, and blue channels. So it's not normally done inside your browser. It's done usually inside the either the camera itself or the software that's used to access those still images, if you're talking about still images or the video image. So I wouldn't worry about it being done in the browser or in your computer. It's usually done in the camera or in the driver that is receiving a raw video image. So the raw video image has the undebayed. Well, I guess so. If you're saving in raw format, then you still have an undebayed image, and then it must be run through the debayering filter to get rid of the excess green, in other words, which if you looked at it in its raw format with a log C color profile, it would be flat and greenish looking. But if you color convert it to Rec 709 in your software, then that would include the debayering and the shifting of the color balance to a normal color video range. I hope that's clear. It's not.
It's a complex topic, and I was trying to read into that too, because and correct me if I'm wrong, Courtney, but the codecs that they typically these the playback of video on web browsers, you're typically talking about H.264, H.265, VP9, AV1, all these popular codecs, but I guess those videos, they're already debayed, they're already color processed, right? Because my understanding was that the debayering process was specific to raw video file formats, or do I have that wrong?
Yeah, a raw video format, keeps probably now, and it depends on whether the debayering actually, I think the debayering happens before it's stored in raw, so it's just stored with values that haven't had the debayering values applied to them. So it has the full color space, the raw color space before it's modified. But I think the debayering happens before it exits the camera, but the
Right.
values haven't been adjusted for the debayering until you take that raw image and apply a color space to it, like Rec 709 for a normal broadcast video color space, or
All right,
P3 if you're
let's
going higher end.
move to the next question.
The next question again comes from the QR code, and it's from Tochi Onyebuchi in Maniema. Like most corporate users, especially those working in government, we are PC only for all operations, so ZoomISO is never an option. Any other suggestions for apps to deliver when Wirecast isn't doing well with the Zoom API? Hard enough to get Zoom use here okayed.
Go ahead, Chris.
So my suggestion would be use vMix, right? Wirecast, in my experience, how they respond to issues and their development process has been slow and clunky. I've heard people say it's better recently. My historic experience has not been great with Wirecast. It's been good for certain things. If you color inside the lines, it's been solid, but if you don't, it's not. I would look at vMix. vMix is not perfect. vMix has also had some quirky implementations of Zoom, but for the most part, it works. And so you can get the Zoom Max license for $50 a month. So give it, or a demo for, I think the demo is fully functional. The top version of vMix is free for 2 months. So I would give that a shot and see what that does for you. I think you will find vMix way more flexible, way more options, way more things you can do with vMix than Wirecast. I used Wirecast for years and then needed an additional encoder, and so I thought I would like, well, I'll use the Remix free trial to kind of fill this gap. And it was just kind of intended to be like just to get me through this thing. And after a week of using it, I was like, I'm switching completely. I'm going dumping Wirecast, moving straight to vMix. So I would look at vMix.
Yeah, and Tochi, you didn't specifically mention what exactly is the challenge that you're facing. We don't know the specs of the computer. We don't know if perhaps it's an underpowered PC. There could be other variables here. Andy Carluccio in the chat here from Zoom is also saying that custom AV for Zoom Rooms is a good solution there. Of course, that's Windows compatible, and third-party apps like Live to Air, and of course, we already talked about vMix. So you got various solutions. You got to make sure that the computer has, a beefy enough GPU, beefy enough processor, make sure you have lots of RAM. So check the manufacturer specifications. They usually have specific configurations that they test and qualify as well. So you're going to want to make sure that you check all those boxes as well. And James Haldane in the chat saying they are in the middle of doing an 8-week legislative session with Wirecast and Zoom Rooms, and they've had zero issues. I know James has been using Wirecast for many years, and it seems to work for him, so I guess your mileage may vary. Let's go to actually, before we go to the next question here, just want to remind you, we have a great panel today if you'd like to ask questions on the show. And if you don't know how to do that, it's really, really simple. You just need to be part of our community. So we'd ask that you go to officehours.global/join. That's officehours.global/join. Put in your name and email. We're going to send you the links that you're going to need to get into our Q&A system, which is called Makana. And that is where people are chatting live right now, so we can have that conversation. You can also vote on those questions as well. So, just go through that list, just vote everything up and down. That tells us the priority of what questions we should answer first on the show. Next question.
Next is Francis Frey coming to us through the QR code from Cambridge, Massachusetts. How should I think about 1080p 30 versus 1080p 60 for teaching large classes in Zoom? What would be noticeable to live participants?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Think of it for about a 60th of a second, and then make sure that you go at 1080p 30. I don't think you would need for teaching a large class. You're doubling your bandwidth to go to 1080p 60, at least inside the computer that you're sending it with. And also the stream is going to take up twice as much bandwidth. So unless you're showing, football plays or something with a lot of action in it, an increase in frame rate isn't really going to help you for teaching something where you're probably looking at static screens or demonstration graphics or text on a background. For non-moving things, the difference in frame rate is not going to make any difference at all. So you'd be better off with a lower frame rate because it would allow more people to participate at the known frame rate. They will not receive any advantage for going to 60 usually, except those that can receive the 60 are just going to eat up more of their bandwidth. So I don't think it's a good idea to go to 60 unless you're, like I say, demonstrating like physics or something that involves a lot of motion on the screen. Then you might think about the difference between 30 and 60. Same resolution.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, in addition to the additional bandwidth required, I somewhat disagree because, first of all, even if you don't use 60 frame rates per second, the move to the higher 12 megabits per second data stream is going to get you a better 1080p 30 than you already have, because we're adding more data to the pipeline. So you're going to get better image quality. So if that's really what you care about, if you want the best possible quality, that is something certainly to consider. I've given it a lot of thought of going from 30 to 60. And it's really interesting because when I watch a lot of YouTube shows that are at 60, you can really, even for talking head stuff, like people just doing this type of stuff, even if you're not moving around that much, I can still see the difference. And I get it, it's a total preference thing, but I think that the smoother motion, it just seems more realistic to me. It's a little more visceral, but it's definitely not a necessity. But personally, even if I wasn't moving to 60, I would probably still upgrade and pay the extra if I had the bandwidth available to me and my network could handle it, just because of the increase in data bit rate and better image quality overall, which ultimately for me, I'm kind of obsessed with details like that. So that's something that's important to me. Maybe it's not important to you. Go ahead, Chris.
So unrelated to like Zoom specifically, when you're thinking about the 30 to 60 transition, uh, one thing that gets lost is the bandwidth, right? It's like that is twice the bandwidth, and so in a YouTube scenario, you're sending a 1080p 30 video to YouTube at 8 megs. If you're sending a 1080p 60 video to YouTube at 8 megs, you've increased your frame rate, but you've degraded the quality of your video because you're sending twice as many pixels in the same amount of space, and that's just something to think about. I think Zoom handles most of that kind of on its own, but there are bandwidth requirements that to take into consideration when you're switching from 30 to 60.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question.
This one comes from Andre Dole in Berlin. Chris, that's you, Chris, on panel. Do you have any new AI generated tools to show?
Chris,
Sure.
what do you got?
Why not? So let's see if we can do a live demo. I One of the things I need to do, so for our tennis live streams, we have 6 tennis courts, and for each tennis court we have an individual camera. And when we stream a tennis match, we stream 7 streams. One stream from each individual cam. Each camera has its own individual stream, so you can tune into just that camera. And then we have a multi-view for all of the 6 cameras in one view. And so I need to configure each of those cameras to send to a specific SRT, and I need to turn that on. And to do that individually takes time. So I got to log into each camera, username, password, navigate here, paste in the setting, turn this on, save it, then open another camera and do the same thing. So I wrote a web interface to do it all in one place. And so I've got this little thing where here are all my cameras, and I have there's a file that generates what the settings are. And so theoretically, if I hit enable all, we'll see what happens. Oh, there they go. So all those started popping in. And so just by clicking that one button, all those cameras, each one of those cameras, the SRT turned on and started streaming SRT into this vMix input. And then I can do the same thing and just disable them all, and you can see all the volume stop. And so, yeah, this was one of those things. Like a lot of this stuff I do with AI. It's just a little tool that's super specific that saves me a ton of time.
That's awesome. What amazing times that we live in with all this stuff. It's hard to keep straight, like all this stuff that's happening right now. Just, I haven't even played with some of these AI tools. Like I haven't tried what's the new Chat-GPT Codex? That's their new coding thing that's supposed to be very competitive as well. So I'm thinking about starting up a few projects in the next week. So I'm gonna see what I can cook up here. Next question.
The next one comes from Guy Cochran in Seattle, in Washington. Are you ready for 60 frames per second?
Paul, are you ready for higher frame rates?
Almost. I'm almost ready. I tell you, in my background here, there's this, I'm building a teleprompter. You can see it right here. I'm building this teleprompter, and I'm putting my Sony ZV-E10 Mark II on that. And once I get that set up, I won't be on this wonky old setup anymore. I'll be up in the big leagues with the big boys, right?
Are you gonna? Do you need more microphones? I mean, you've got 3 microphones there. Are we gonna double it to 6 microphones when you go to 60?
I think we'll stick with this combination. It seems to be a good combination. But to answer your question, I'll switch to 60 using the ZV-E10 because it's a very robust camera. I don't think I can do that with the Insta360 here.
Right. All right, Courtney.
Yeah, I would have to move a lot faster. You know, my eyes and my mouth don't move that fast enough to even show 60 frames per second. I have the bandwidth. I have 980 kilobits up, so not a problem there. I was just trying to check to see, yes, the Rodecaster Video S is capable of 60 FPS output, unlike the I don't know if the ATEM Mini is. I think maybe it's stuck at 30 at 1080p.
Right.
But yeah, so I probably could do 60 frames per second, but I would have to move a lot faster. My lazy boy doesn't go 60 frames per second.
Dave.
Well, I think I'm ready for it. I have a high rate resolution and high rate camera. I have a system that can handle 60. I have bandwidth for that. I'm at like Courtney, I'm on a fiber and I can get that 940 out of it. So I think I'm ready. I haven't encountered anybody who can receive my 60 or my 4K. So we'll see how it goes in the future. But, I think I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready to. I've changed my camera switcher, my whole pipeline, everything. I've changed it to 60 in anticipation of this as well, and I'm really excited to try it. I'm definitely the moment they make this feature available, I'm going to be changing to 60. I'd like to move my own show to it as well. I know Mimo Live, we're currently we just updated or Oliver just updated the SDK in Mimo Live. So there's a new beta as well that has the latest SDK. I don't know if it has that new feature, if it's ready for it. I'm hoping it does, but I can't wait to move my show to 60 as well. I may need to actually upgrade my M4 Mac Mini. I'm thinking it needs probably a better GPU if I'm going to be doing 4K 60. That's a big ask in terms of bandwidth for live streaming. I've got the internet bandwidth. It's not that. It's just it's the computer resource that I got to think about. The other thing, and I'll get to you in just a sec, Chris, too. The other thing, I haven't really heard anybody talk about too, is when you go from 30 to 60. Something to think about is the you get a bit of a loss. There's a loss of light as well. So you got to also make sure you're changing your shutter speed as well. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I went to 60 before I went to 1080, right? So I'm sports, so sports it's much more important in sports, but we were 720/60 before we went to 1080/60. At the time our systems were capable of, I could either do 1080/30 or 720/60, and for me at that point in sports, the 60 was more important than 1080, and so we were at 60 before we moved to 1080.
Yeah, and if I recall too, the Twit podcast network, they were pioneers too of 60 frame rates per second before they even moved to 1080. They were doing as well 720/60 for years before I saw any other YouTuber do that. And I think they're at 1080p 60 now. So they moved to 60 quite a while ago. And I can see the difference. I mean, and they're not doing a lot of stuff where they're moving around other than maybe demoing products and showing hardware, but you can definitely see the difference. I guess you got to make the argument: is it worth it for you? Well, and that's a decision that only you can make. You've got to look at your bandwidth. You got to look at your computers and processing power as well, because you're adding more data to the pipeline. So there are considerations certainly, other than you can't just flip a switch and assume it's all going to go perfectly smooth. So definitely think about that. Well, let's go to the next question.
The next one comes to us from Clive Kitchener in Souk, BC. I have many hours of audio tape, spoken word, and an old cassette player. Considering doing a high-speed transfer, recording in fast forward to Audacity software, and then doing a pitch shift to lose the chipmunks. Any easier way or suggestions?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, the easier way is hire an intern to do that for you, because first of all, putting a cassette recorder in fast forward, especially if it's an old cassette recorder not designed for that, is not going to work, because the speed isn't constant in fast forward speed. It depends on the where you are in the tape as to the speed of its travel, because as the little spool gets bigger, winding more tape onto it, it pulls it faster, etc. So yeah, and as it starts at the beginning, it's slower. So it would change speed throughout its dub, and that's not going to be easy to do and to pitch correct in Audacity, because Audacity changes the pitch correction for the entire file. So no in that question. Old school cassette duplicators used to have a higher speed mode, which would double the capstan speed usually, but the recorder would then be going double the capstan speed, and they're specially designed to accommodate the shift in bandwidth that the audio is going to go through when you speed it up, because you could, things are going to get rolled off on the high end, and then when you slow it back down, it's going to sound very dull and muffled because your playback system couldn't handle that higher frequency sound of the high speed transfer. So yeah, no, not a good idea. Just especially if you got an old, hire someone or send it out. There are services that do that, and they may make you a deal on a large number of tapes of transferring it to digital files, or just set it up and put a tape in, automate it to some degree, put a tape in, set up a USB recorder hooked up to the audio output, hit play, and go off and do your other business, and then come back and take it out when the tape is done. You don't have to listen to it or monitor it usually.
Dave?
Yeah, it's an interesting experiment. All the cassette machines I've used, when you hit fast forward, the head disengages. So I don't know how you're going to get sound out at fast forward. I'd recommend, as you say, easier suggestions. There are film transfer services in most major cities, and I'm sure there's one in Victoria or Souk. You just take that in, they'll take care of it for you. They'll do it either at regular speed, like Courtney's suggesting, or they may have a dubber. I worked for a place that did massive dubbing of cassettes, and there was a full-time person making 8 copies of something through a duplicator. So it is possible when you have the right gear, and unless you're going to go online and find that gear, I wouldn't try it with just your cassette player.
Next question.
This one's back from Tochi Anyabuchi in Maniama. My left AirPod has been lost in a cat-astrophe. How do I replace it and resync it so I don't have to buy a brand new full set?
Go ahead, Courtney.
Well, you have to get your cat really close to the other one so it will sync. No, what you do is if you went to the Apple store, if you have one near you, they can sync it for you. It's a fairly complex process. It can be done. I don't have any of them, so I'd show you, but you gotta, it involves putting the new one in the case with the old one and closing the lid for 15 seconds. And then I think you open the lid and it's flashing yellow, which means it's not in sync. And then you have to reset the AirPods with the lid open. You press the button on the back of the case, hold it for 15 seconds until the light flashes white. That wipes out the pairing on the old one and puts them both into pairing mode. And then you have to repair them. You have to close the lid on the case and then put the case near your iPhone to pair it with the iPhone. And then you should see the animation pop up for pairing and click on connect. And then I think it will be paired. You can Google, there's the ChatGPT can give you the answer to this probably in about 30 seconds. It is a fairly complex process. You got to go through all those weird steps, but it is possible to do yourself. Or if there's a Genius bar nearby, belly up to the Genius bar and ask them to pair it for you. They'll know how to do it.
Yep. Next question.
This one's coming in from Jason Robert Shaw in Sarasota, Florida. I've learned meet recording isn't available on nonprofit Google accounts, but a few board members need to record sessions. What workarounds or alternatives do you recommend? Budget is constrained.
Go ahead, Chris.
The obvious answer is upgrading, right? Like our university went through that. We had the standard education package, and you couldn't do any of that. And they eventually upgraded to the package where they paid a little bit of money and had that capability. Budget's constrained. Really, I think your only option then is screen scraping. So you could use something like OBS or something super simple and just join the meeting from another computer, turn the camera and mic off and capture the screen in audio and record. That's probably your cheapest method.
Go ahead, Dave.
Well, I'm actually a user of the nonprofit Google account. It's a full service account and it's very comprehensive. But I found that the host can record, but none of the people who join the meeting can record. So there may be a workaround when you get the host to record everybody, and then the members can get a copy of everything and just use it for their own purposes. But yeah, it's a budget constraint means, as Chris said, you might have to go get the full thing if those members really need to record their own copy of everything. But the general host is able to put a recording on their machine.
And if you like this show, we've got other shows on our network. So just a reminder, you can find the schedule by going to the homepage. We've got a great website, officehours.global. We've got Monday night, we've got our evening extra hours show. And on Tuesdays, those are our what we call our specials show. And then Wednesdays is our audio day. Thursday is David Paskin's The Rundown, and that is at 6 p.m. Pacific. Sorry, I forgot to mention Extra Hours is also at the same time, 6 p.m. Pacific. Next question.
Vincent Alvarez from Bellingham, Washington is asking, during the Super Bowl 60, I noticed red marks on a production cable. What are they for? Some are 10 inches apart, but some marks much further. Go Hawks. He has a picture.
Chris.
Of it.
So here's the picture. And I am going to 100% speculate here. But back in the day when there wasn't as much wireless, all the coaches' comms were wired, and they'd have a cable wrangler that stood behind them. And so wherever they went, they were making sure that cable was clear of everyone. And since this looks like it's in game and it's a guy on the sideline holding the cable, I'm betting that is just to help identify the cable so that people see it, just a kind of a visual reference. That's a cable that's going to be used, I don't know what, but used for something, maybe a sideline report or something like that. And they've just taped off some red marks on it so that when it's deployed temporarily, people can see it, because obviously at a Super Bowl, there's a lot more moving pieces. There's a lot more people. There's a lot more things. There's probably a lot less space in the sideline. So they want to make sure everything that they're deploying, even if it's just for like a 30-second spot, that cable is visible to everyone. That's my guess. I don't know if anyone has any other thoughts.
Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, that'd be my guess too. It's for identification, because on the sidelines you've got the roving cameras that are on dollies, that are on sidewinder dollies that are from Chapman that move back and forth, and they go up and down as well and have an operator on them, and those are connected via Tri-X. And so to identify which cables go to which cameras, so that the cable wrangler doesn't pick up the wrong cable and suddenly start winding up cable for somebody else's camera, I think they probably color code them that way so that they can instantly look down and see which cable of the 7 black cables laying on the ground there are the ones that they need to devote their attention to. And to this is especially important when they get crossed up or tangled up, or so if you're trying to extricate one cable from another, telling which cable is which, if they're both identical Tri-X, gets really complex. If you've got a nest of Tri-X, to try and figure out which cable goes where is really a problem if you've got 2 cables intertwined.
Paul.
Yeah, since we're guessing, I'll make some guesses. I'm guessing that it either marks the midpoint of the cable, or maybe it marks a point in the cable where you don't want to pull it anymore. Or maybe it's a unit of measurement. Maybe like there's a red mark every 10 feet. And these are all just wild guesses, okay?
Yeah, and actually, let's take the guess out of it, because I think the right answer might be here in the chat. And Mickey is also supporting what Gordon Lake is saying. When we mark cables like that, it's to make sure that the 500-foot SMPTE coils that are put back on the trucks are the same size, which makes it easier to stack them. That sounds very practical and smart. Chris, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, so I don't think that's what it is, just because of So and when you look at that, some of those marks are like only like 10 inches, 12 inches around. And so if you're using a marking on the cable to coil like that, that's just going to get confusing because a 500-foot cable, you're not going to line like I know what they're talking about. It's like if you set a mark like every 3 feet, then when you cable that and you hit that mark every time, then that cable loop is exactly the right length. But this coil has like 10-inch marks every couple. I don't know. Maybe they probably know more than me, but that seems like those marks are too close together for that to be what it's used for.
Okay, well, let's go to the next question.
The next one's from Paul Valhus in Austin, Texas. And on the panel today, he's asking Courtney if he can get some advice on the teleprompter he's building in the background.
All right, Paul, you want to add something before Courtney responds to
Yeah. Actually, Chris Sabato has a role in this too because Chris specified the tripod I use for that, and it's this is it right here. You can see it, and this is the tripod. And there's a monitor that goes with it. I'll show you that. And this I found out about in after hours. Somebody told me in New Zealand, a friend in New Zealand told me about this to get this 16-inch Asus monitor. So those are the parts. And now I'm going to turn it over to the inventor of the teleprompter to give me some advice on how to put
go
it
ahead,
together.
Courtney.
Well, first make sure that Asus hopefully has image reverse built into it, because a lot of those very compact monitors that are designed as portable monitors like the Asus is are pretty simplistic in their controls, and they don't have image reverse built into the monitor itself. So you would have to do it in the software that is feeding that monitor. So make sure your software does it or the monitor does it. Second of all, you're going to have to build a shroud so that the backside of that mirror is shielded from any reflected light from overhead, because remember, it's a two-way mirror. It says it's a one-way mirror, but it actually reflects. Oh, there's the shroud. Okay. Make sure you got the shroud on, and make sure the inside of the shroud is not reflective. If it's, it should be very matte. It's kind of reflective. So bear in mind that if your brightness on your monitor is turned up too high, it's going to reflect off the top of that shroud back into the lens, depending upon the angle that it's at. And it's a feel world. So, and try and adjust the angle on that glass looks a little bit low. It needs to be at 45 degrees. Then make sure that your lens doesn't crash into the glass, because if you have a lens that changes length as you focus it, it can scar the back of the glass. So make sure that it's not touching the glass. Should be at least a quarter of an inch or more behind the glass. Let's see, what else? Make sure it's balanced. Try and balance it on the tripod so that after you mount your camera, it depends on the camera that you're going to put on there. If it's very back heavy, if it's got a battery on it, let's say on the back, make sure it's counterbalances. This is less of a problem now that they have these really lightweight monitors like the one you showed. It doesn't add that much to the front of the camera. So usually they're pretty front heavy with a teleprompter with a high quality monitor on the front of it. And also make sure that your monitor has enough light output, because remember that glass is 70-30 usually. So it only reflects 30% of the light that is coming out of that monitor. So that monitor's brightness, let's say, is 300 nits, then it's only going to give you a 100 nit brightness reflected out of it, because 200 of those nits are going to go straight through the glass and end up in the hood and above the camera. So bear that in mind. You should have a monitor, especially if you're going to ever use it outdoors. If you're using it indoors, you can control your lighting. That probably will not be a problem. But outdoors, you may have trouble seeing what's on that monitor. If you've got a 300 nit monitor, you need to have upward of 500 to 1,000 nits for a good teleprompter that works outdoors. That's my 2 cents.
And Paul, you have something to add?
Yeah, I just want to mention I'm using a Sony ZV-E10 Mark II, and it's a fairly lightweight camera, and I don't think it'll. And there is Ian, who recommended this to me in after hours, is actually using this setup. I don't know what kind of camera he's using, but he's using the Feel World teleprompter. Courtney, how do you regard the Feel World family of teleprompters? Is that a good solution, do you think?
I've never actually looked at their teleprompters, but from what you showed, it doesn't have, I guess there's a little bit of a slide on that height adjustment on the monitor, because you want to adjust the lens of the camera so that it's in the center of the glass. So if the height is adjustable on that little platform that's there, and I see that it does have some thumb screws on there and slots, so you can adjust it up and down about an inch. So hopefully that will give you, depending upon where the lens is on that camera, you have to get the camera up high enough to shoot through the middle of that glass, since it looks like the glass is not adjustable in height from that bracket itself.
No, it's not
fixed.
height adjustable. No.
Yeah, but the camera is, so you're gonna have to raise the camera up so that the lens is centered in the middle of that glass to get your eye contact good.
Maybe
so
next time
there's
we
that
talk,
consideration.
I'll be actually using that teleprompter.
And also it helps also to have a tripod that has a balance plate on it, which has a dovetail plate that you can slide forward and backward to balance it. That makes it balancing it
Right.
a whole lot easier if you're going to operate it. If it's going to be locked off, doesn't matter. But if
it's a Chris Sabato certified tripod from Manfrotto.
I don't throwing my name out there. I just I just made a slight suggestion to a head that was affordable and really.
Okay, I'm exaggerating.
Keep us posted, Paul. Once you
I'll
start
keep you
assembling that
posted.
thing, maybe on Discord, post some photos for sure. Let's go to the next question.
The next question comes from Rajan Chandil in Los Angeles. He's asking what adapters are a must-have in your arsenal, ones that you can't live without. And of course, he's not saying what kind of adapters, audio or video, so maybe both.
Chris, start us off.
So the two that kind of come to mind for me is I have a decimator bidirectional converter, not the big fancy one that converts frame rates and all that. I don't really need to do that. For me, it's just a simple SDI to HDMI or HDMI to SDI, or it's basically you got an SDI in and out, an HDMI in and out, and they can go cross, so you can convert one to the other at the same time, or you can loop through, so you pass in an HDMI and loop through and out an HDMI, and then get an SDI out, or same thing with the SDI, and that's super handy to have. The other thing that I always have is I've got a little cheap Feel World monitor. It's a little 7-inch monitor that's got an HDMI in and an SDI in, and I've got a little 2-foot HDMI cable and a 2-foot SDI cable, and basically anytime I need to kind of plug in and check a signal flow somewhere in the path, it's super helpful to just make sure that I've got a signal flow and I can see what I'm doing. Allows me to, I use a lot of POV cameras, so it allows me to align the POV cameras quickly. So those are two things that I have.
And Courtney.
Yeah, I agree on the decimator, the HD. I like the Cross, the MD Cross. The MD HX is a cheaper version of this. This one's a little more expensive, and it does everything the other one does, except this one has built-in test pattern generators. So you can use this as a HD test pattern generator. It generates, 20 or 30 different test patterns and outputs them. You can also use this as a distribution amplifier for SDI. It has 4 SDI outputs that can be configured for either loop through or for the same information. In other words, loop through the original signal or have the output of the frame rate converter hooked up to it as well. So you can either modify the frame rate. The other neat thing is that little LCD display on the front of the MDHX tells you what kind of signal you have coming in. So you'll know, is it 1080p? Is it 720p? Is it 1080p-I? Is it 1080i? Is it, SFP, segmented frame protocol? There's, 240 different flavors of video signal that it can deal with and can convert. So it tells you all about that. It also does image flip. So if you need to mirror your image and output it in a mirrored format, or flip it vertically or flip it horizontally, it can do that as well. So that is really a key thing. And as Chris was mentioning, a small monitor like this one, this is Viltrox. It's fairly inexpensive for an HD monitor. It has a little, which I can never get open. It has a lens shade on it, and it's 1200 nits, so you can see it outdoors. It's it comes with a standard Sony battery, N-type battery that clips on the back of it. It is a touchscreen and operates either touchscreen, and it has this knob on the side, which is a selector knob. You can click it or select stuff in case you've got gloves on in cold weather. So if you can't operate it with the touchscreen, you can operate it with the knob. And I think it's an HD. It's an HD monitor. It has 4 little buttons that are programmable on the top. You can set them up to do whatever you want, to display whatever meters. It has meters on it, audio meters, and RGB parade, scopes built into it, and audio built into it, and it's HDMI. For troubleshooting HDMI stuff, it also has a LUT that you can apply. It has a little SD card you can put in there and apply a LUT to it. So it's a pretty handy little monitor for under $200. So good deal.
And Paul.
Yeah. Hey, Rajan in Los Angeles. Mine's not as exciting as Courtney's, but I use a lot of these little adapters. They're HDMI to HDMI and also USB-C to USB-A, and I've got 3 of them here that I'm going to be using on that teleprompter, and they're like right angle adapters, and they'll take a cable and make it turn and then go back or go right angle. So those will be really useful in the construction of this teleprompter.
And before I talk about my adapters, I just want to first of all talk about, because I have a lot of adapters, so I want to talk about the storage solution. So I use these DeWalt T-Stack cases, which I really, really like. They slide into place and lock, and they've got these trays, and they come in all different sizes. So I love the little trays because I have a lot of different adapters. I like carrying things like universal power supplies. You never know where you're gonna go somewhere and someone's little power brick has failed. So there was one I used to buy on Amazon, which hasn't been available for a while now. I don't know if it's on back order. It was from a brand called Benson, BENSN, and it had a ton of current. It was 3 amps, and it would come with all these interchangeable. It was modular, so you get these interchangeable barrel connectors, including one that would convert to USB-C, and it had a little digital selector switch on it, so you could switch all the way from 5 volts all the way up to something crazy like 18 volts, and it even had a center pin positive or negative reverse polarity flip as well. So I found power supply adapters like that very, very useful. You never know when something's going to fail or somebody doesn't have the right one. You got to account for all those kinds of situations. And the other adapters too, USB type A to type C, female and male, and type B to C, and all these different gender changers. I have USB right angled adapters. I've got HDMI right angle adapters. Anything to get into tight spaces sometimes. If you're having to get something in behind a TV that's mounted up against the wall, you don't have a lot of clearance. I like all sorts of little neat solutions like that. Go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I didn't really answer the adapters part. Here's another thing that I always carry. And look, you see, I've got a package of about 5 of them there. HDMI female to female. This is great because if your HDMI cable is just a little bit too short, you can string 2 of them together that are male to male and go the distance, or for example, plug something in to extend. Like if you've got a connector on the back of a TV that you can't get to easily, you can put a short cable on and put one of these female adapters on the other end of it, and then you can extend that female connector outside if you need to plug in a streaming device or something to it. So I always carry a lot of those, and of course the typical bullets, which we call the the BNC female to female, which is for connecting two BNC cables together to extend their length. Female to female BNC connectors, of course, and like Alexander was saying, all the gender changers for audio and video as well. Be careful with those USB-A to USB-C converters, though. Only use them. Be careful about using them for chargers. And for data delivery, they're okay as long as they deliver data. But remember, USB-C can handle 4 different voltages. USB-A can only handle 1 voltage, which is 5 volts, 500 milliamps. So be careful about that if you're expecting to charge, or, which direction you're going to use it with DC, because you can blow things up with that kind of converter.
Absolutely. And let's go to the next question.
This one's from Guy Cochran in Seattle, Washington. What's your process for pre-show rehearsals and walkthroughs to hunt for failures before they're public?
Paul?
Well, like today, I thought I was ready for the show, and I had a LED background there, and I had some videos coming and going on the LED background, and then all of a sudden I heard a comm from one of the comm guys. He said, you have 30 seconds to get rid of all the clutter in your background and that LED wall. So I thought, how am I going to do this in 30 seconds? So I ran into the bedroom, grabbed the top blanket on our bed, ran back in here, and threw it over my 98-inch monitor, and I was able to get it done. But I should have done that through pre-show. Pre-show would have been better if we had sorted it out there.
Courtney?
Also run through, if it's a tech rehearsal where you have any kind of video playback or slides, run through your slide deck, run through the videos, especially if you're receiving these videos from third parties. This has happened to me on shows, not happened to me, but I've observed it happen. Hey, I would check it out, but I'm just sitting back running the teleprompter and watching the show crash because somebody didn't do this correctly in the pre-show. They get the videos in at the last minute, you line them up, and you load them into your computer to play them back on the big screen behind you in the show. And if you don't run through each of those videos and check the beginning, the middle, and the end, sometimes you could find that, hey, they were encoded with a codec that doesn't play back on your computer, or it'll play back the first 10 seconds and stop because you've got some kind of free version of the software that only lets you play back 30-second clips, and it's a 4-minute clip you're trying to play back. So you need to find this stuff out a couple of hours before the show starts. So make sure that you play back every video clip you have on the machine that's going to play it back, in the setup that you're going to play it back in, to make sure that that video will play back with the correct color, the correct beginning and end, or they'll have slates on the head of the files. Sometimes you have to bypass and set a new input. So never play back any files that you haven't tested ahead of time, and run through your show so that everybody knows, okay, when this person says this, then this video is going to come up. We're going to play that video, and then coming out of that video, we're going to go to this slide, and then we're going to go back. The lighting will change to the other side of the stage, et cetera, et cetera. So go through all your technical cues one by one in your rundown for the entire crew. So have a tech rehearsal with all people manning the cameras, manning the video playback, manning all the audio, to know what's going to come up where and where they're going, so everybody knows what has to be up and working at any specific time. And do a tech rehearsal, cue to cue tech rehearsal. You don't have to play the videos all the way through, but at least check the beginning, middle, and the end, and be able to jump to the end during the tech rehearsal so that everybody knows what the out cue is going to look like on the video and where they're going to go from there.
Yeah, 100% on that on playback. It's also having conversations with clients too about, sometimes if you're having to play back videos, they might come to you last minute and say, hand you a USB stick and say, we just made a final change. And you got to be careful about formats, having to, depending on the device that you're using to play back this stuff too, because some things like Blackmagic products are very picky about file formats. I would probably re-encode all the videos to ensure everything's consistent, and like Courtney said, test all that stuff. And, you know, of course, rehearsing stuff well ahead of time, preparation is key as well. When I'm doing camera checks, you know, it's nice to get, if you can, try to get other people before you know, if you're doing an interview show, for example, before the talent shows up, it's always nice if you can just get other people to, you know, stand in as those people and do lighting and camera tests as well, well ahead of time. Know where people are sitting, get those people in those positions, and make sure they're framed up. Make sure that the mics are working. You know, it's just so you can eliminate all possible variables and just have it as ready as possible before people actually walk in and show up. Let's go to the next question.
Kenny Hampton is coming at us from Greenville, Illinois. Please explain the history, uses, and differences of frame rate choices in software of 5994 and 60 frames per second.
Dave.
Well, I'm going to give it a try here, but 5994 is a multiple of 2997, which was the standard for color TV in North America. So when it switched from black and white to color, in order to accommodate the band that introduces the color, they had to change the frame rate to make that fit. And that takes you off 30. So now that we're shooting in 60, that the inner frame format, needs to be 5994. So in your software, you have to make sure that what your camera shot is going to play back in your software at the right speed, because at 5994, you're going to get a mismatch between your audio and your video eventually. But if you know that you're going to be shooting 5994, you just make sure your software is set up to make and edit and process your video with your audio. 60 FPS is nice and solid, and it's a multiple of 30. So that's why that exists. And in Europe, of course, it's 25. So then they do 25 and 50. Europe doesn't use the same coloring system that we use in North America. So they don't have to worry about a partial frame rate like 5994. 25 works fine.
Next question.
Raj is back again in Los Angeles. Raj Shandil is asking, a new Blackmagic Design Streaming Encoder high definition released. Any thoughts on this new update?
Go ahead, Chris.
So here it is. It's just I think it's just an update from one of their previous products, and this is something that I actually would like to be great. Because one of the things that I really like about their streaming encoders is is this screen right here that you can pull up, and you get all this data. You get the live video, you get your volume meters, you get the data rate, all that like it's, I don't know. I think it's good information that you can just look at it at a glance. Unfortunately, Blackmagic has a bad reputation with their encoders, and in terms of like the quality of actually like what they're encoding. I'm assuming this is the same encoder as all their other ones, which means it's going to have the black crush.
Cache full.
Yeah,
I still got PTSD. Cache full when I see cache full.
Yeah, I would love for this to be great because it's a decent price, and on paper it looks good. So maybe here's to hoping, right?
Yeah, we'll see. Like anything, you know, I'd like to give any new product a chance, you know, so hopefully somebody in the community gets a chance to put it through its paces and test it, and let's see what happens. I know Blackmagic has very, very smart people working there. They're always looking to make their products better, so I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll see. That is going to wrap our Saturday show. Thanks to all the panelists for coming in this morning. We really appreciate answering all these questions. And of course, to you, the viewers, you, the listeners, we call you the producers because you put in these questions. We wouldn't have a show without you. And of course, to the back end technical crew that wakes up every single day to put this show on, we very much appreciate you. Thank you very much. That is all the time we have for today, according to the teletraversal. If we were to have traveled around the world to answer all of these questions, we would have traveled 50,000 miles. That's 80,000 kilometers and 395 million bananas for scale. And if you have a little time, why don't you drop in after hours? We'll see you. Look at you.
Just for the benefit of the back end, Andre on comms was a little distracting, but other than that, just fine.
I never heard him, so maybe it was just talking to you.
Well, that was the panel tab on comms. He and Robert were going back and forth just before the show started, so
Oh,
I was a little concerned. Anyway, just an RFI.
I was gonna say, I
Well,
didn't
I
hear
think
you.
he's
Andre
monitoring
had
a channel that was
he
private.
was on the panel tab, and I'm only getting listening. I can't comment back, so. That's what I have, panel only. And I was listening to you two guys talking on panels, so that's all there is to it.